The NFL opening line report for week 2, NFL style, going down all the games, where the opening lines are, and more importantly, where they're going with Mr. Teddy Covers at Teddy_Covers on Twitter. Teddy, welcome in. Happy Monday morning to you.
It feels normal today, doesn't it, Drew?
It does.
That's what's awesome. That's what's awesome. I mean, besides the fact that we're winning and that we had the opening week in the NFL, it just feels normal, and that to me is hopefully for you guys a very good thing as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Some normality in the schedule here. Monday mornings, each and every Monday morning, guys, 10 a.m. Pacific time. This is the NFL opening line report. And Teddy, we're going to be breaking down all the games on week 2's card. But real quick, throw it over to you for the 2 Monday nighters tonight. Any quick thoughts? We got Pittsburgh at the New York Giants, with the Steelers laying 6 or 6.5 on the road, 45 being the total, and Tennessee at Denver in the nightcap. I love how the NFL does back-to-back Monday nighters. I wish they'd do it more. We do get it in week 1, and we got the Titans laying 3 a mile high, with 41 being the total.
Sure. So I'm not in action on either game, and I'll tell you why. I'm not betting any new head coach. We saw yesterday all the new head coaches, even Ron Rivera, who won. They were down 17-0 in that game. They weren't ready. Just the Eagles collapsed more. But the new head coaches, 1-3 ATS in the first half. Dallas got there in the first half with that late touchdown. But also 1-3 ATS for the game, with the Skins the only one that got the money. I'm very reluctant to bet the first-year coaches in their first game. So for me, the no way getting the Giants. For the Steelers, this team is an enormous question mark to me. I got a bunch of people telling me how good Pittsburgh is. I'm like, did you see any of the every old quarterback yesterday stunk. Phillip Rivers wasn't good. Tom Brady wasn't good. Drew Brees wasn't good. I'm not convinced we're getting midseason Ben Roethlisberger, in his prime right here. I understand the under money, but again, the total's already been bet down. So I didn't play that one. And for the late game, look, count me among the Tennessee believers, okay? A huge line move towards the Titans. I know a lot of people were looking at the Denver side in this ballgame. Hey, +3 with the Broncos, home dogs. Mm-hmm. Denver's got some major issues. It's not just Von Miller. It was the Von Miller injury that caused this line move. Well, Von Miller was a piece of it. The line move was already coming. The Broncos with cluster injuries at wide receiver. I don't know who Drew Lock's throwing to tonight. Vic Fangio talking about in practice, he's like, you cannot simulate Derrick Henry. And let's not forget, Titans last year started 2-4 and then went 9-1 down the stretch and then won a pair of playoff games before losing to KC. The last loss, when they went 2-4, was right here at Denver. They lost 16-0. It was the turning point in their season. They got embarrassed in that game. I'm sure they have a triple circled. So I'm not willing to lay the bad end of a big line move like this and ask Tennessee to win by 3. But I'm not bullish on the Broncos' chances tonight. I think they may be a little bit outclassed.
You think there's anything to the, mile high thin air with the opposing team after this offseason, conditioning kind of being a question mark?
Potentially, but it's nothing. Everyone always talks about, you get gas in the mile high air. You get gas in the mile high air. You see it in the back-to-back situations where they play in Utah and Denver in the NBA. I think it's talked about more than it actually affects.
Okay.
Teams. Not to say that it's a non-factor, but it's not a deciding factor for me.
Okay. Well, we got a lot to get to, Teddy, on the show for today. Bless you, by the way. We got 101, 102, the rotation numbers here. Thursday night action, Cincinnati at Cleveland. We got the Browns -6 home favorites in this one. The Thursday nighter, 44 being the total, Teddy.
So I'm going to apologize. We've been doing this for audio only. I've been doing this audio only for 20 years. This podcast. Literally, I started doing it, not 20 years. I think I started doing this in maybe 03 or 04, an opening line report. But I've always done it audio. And now you're going to see how many different places my eyes are going when I talk about these games. I got notes here, I got lines there, I got numbers here. So in terms of eye contact, my eye contact might not be great on this particular show. So when it comes to every week we do the same thing. I'm going to give the look-ahead lines, the bettable lines for these games last week before week 1 was played. I'm going to give my powering number for every game based on my power ratings. We're going to give out the opening number for every game. We're going to talk about where we think the line is going to move. That's the focus of this show. The show is not focused on breaking down every game and making sure that you have the best analysis. It's about what is the market primed to do? Do you need to make bets on Monday morning? Are there games that you want to wait until closer to kickoff? So we're going to talk about some of the injury situations, et cetera, et cetera. But this is an early week look, a first look at the NFL. So let's start with Cincinnati and Cleveland, the Thursday night affair. The look-ahead line, Cleveland minus 7.5, total of 46. The current number, Cleveland minus 6, total 44.5, 45. My number, Cleveland minus 5. So it's a little bit short in the market. There was a lot not to like about the Browns yesterday. What's noticeable for Cleveland that I'm not convinced the markets are fully reacting to yet, 3 of their 4 starters in the secondary were hurt. Were out yesterday. Delpit was out. Greedy Williams was out. Kevin Johnston was out. They lost the starting linebacker Jacob Phillips during that game. They lost the rookie tackle Jedrick Wills during that game. The Browns have significant injury concerns already. Don't know that I love a rookie QB on a short week. I can't imagine Cincy's going to take a ton of money from the wise guys here. I'm anticipating this line sitting in that same 6 range, and we will likely see some more under money. I said 45/44.5. I wrote that a couple hours ago. It's already down to 44. And if you like the under, again, there are cluster injuries in the secondary for Cleveland. But if you like the under, you might want to bet that sooner.
That's the Thursday nighter. We got a full Sunday slate here, Teddy. A lot of games on the card. 261, 262, the rotation number at the top of the card here. 1 o'clock Eastern kick, 10 a.m. Pacific, of course. 46.5 being the total. We're talking the LA Rams at the Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles -1 in the hook at home as we speak right now. Fascinating handicap, Teddy, with the Sunday nighter, the LA Rams now having to go cross country with the 1 p.m. Eastern kick here against Philadelphia, who didn't look good. Interested in your thoughts on this and where the line's going.
Sure. So the trend for teams like the Eagles, teams that lose week 1 as favorites of 5.5 or higher, I think it's 26-11. It's been a good bet, 69%. I know it was.
I like that.
Betting on the teams that were bigger favorites in week 1, so they're supposed to be pretty good, and they lose that week 1 game in straight up fashion. They tend to be good bets the next week. Now, normally, or I shouldn't say normally, in the old days, I would use the Westgate opener because the Westgate was the sports book here in Las Vegas that had all the look-ahead lines. And I would have one number. This year, at least for week 1, there were a bunch of books that had it. So I used a consensus number rather than the Westgate numbers. And this had a split. It was consensus. The look ahead was Philly -3.5 / -4, total of 48. My powering number is Pick'em for this game. There's no team that I made a bigger adjustment to for my preseason power ratings than the Eagles after their week 1 loss. We'll talk about why in a minute. And of course, this number opened 3 and 48 last night, and already the money's coming for LA. You can understand why. The Eagles have big issues. Okay. Cluster injuries on the offensive line. Carson Wentz took 8 sacks yesterday. The receiving core, nobody was open. It's not a good receiving core, and it's not a good offensive line. And those are both problematic against a team like LA. After taking that 17-point lead yesterday, the Eagles had 4 3-and-outs, 3 turnovers, 2 stopped on downs, and 1 missed field goal while allowing 3 touchdowns and 4 red zone tries to a team that isn't very good offensively. The Rams were the beneficiaries of a well-acted offensive pass interference penalty drawn by Jalen Ramsey, which saved my bet, and I'll thank him for it. But certainly when you look at the matchup of that Rams defensive front against the Eagles offensive front, you can envision a scenario like what happened against the Washington football team yesterday, where the Eagles just can't protect their quarterback or open up any passing lanes. I anticipate more money coming for LA, even for the early start game back east.
Teddy, we got 263, 264 up next. Carolina at Tampa Bay. We're seeing the Bucks -7 in the hook at home, 48.5 the total. Another fascinating handicap, man. Interested in your opinion.
Sure is. Okay, so look ahead line here was Tampa -8, 8.5, total 48.5. My numbers, Tampa 8.5. The market's open 7.5 / 8.5 last night, and the 8.5s and 8s have all been bet up or bet down to 7.5. Carolina looked better than expected on offense yesterday, I guess. I'm not sure how much of that was their offense and how much was the Raiders' defense just looking awful. But the Panthers were able to move the football up and down the field. The only reason they didn't come and win the game was because of a dumb play call on fourth down instead of giving the ball to McCaffrey, which the coaching staff apologized for after the game. But it was a good-looking offensive performance for Carolina. Defensively, that team's they're in a world of hurt. The 3 rookies are going to start starting on defense. They didn't force any turnover, didn't get any pressure, they didn't have any coverage in the secondary. Brady looked old and bad in week 1. There's no sugarcoating Tom Brady's performance yesterday. Jameis Winston looked better. The best quarterback in that game looked like he was sitting on the bench in New Orleans because Drew Brees wasn't good either. We'll talk about that in a minute. But that's a concern for me with Tampa laying this type of a price with an offense that is still very much a work in progress. And Brady said all the right things. I would anticipate a better performance from the Bucs this time around, but I'm not convinced the market's going to be excited about laying more than a touchdown with Tampa in a division game in week 2. We've already seen some money for the Panthers. We may see a little bit more.
Teddy, we're talking Denver versus Pittsburgh up next. Interesting kind of line here with Denver playing tonight, but we're still seeing a line out there, 43 being the total with the Steelers -6 at home.
Yeah, I got a tweet about this. I apologize for I didn't write down your name, but I wanted to answer it on the show. So they say, how can you have a week 2 line on it when they haven't even played week 1 yet? Well, how do you have week 1 lines when they haven't played any games yet? All they're doing is putting up a number based on what the 2 teams' power rating is, and it will get adjusted after the game tonight. If somebody looks good, if the Steelers look great and the Broncos look awful, the number goes up. If the Broncos look great and the Steelers look awful, the number goes down. That's just the nature of how lines are set. They're going to use the power ratings they have, and if those power ratings get adjusted, they're going to adjust those power ratings. Look ahead line here last week, 5.5, 6. Now I'm seeing 6.5s up there today total. My number, by the way, is only 4 on this game for Pittsburgh, but I'm a little bit off market on the Steelers. I got to see the Steelers play a good game before I'm willing to price them as a contender.
I'm with you, Teddy. And also, like you've said in past opening line reports, when the Monday night team is playing, it's kind of correlated with how you think the Steelers will do tonight in your bet with next week. If you think they're going to do, poorly tonight, look to fade them in the following week, right, Teddy?
Absolutely. That's an outstanding point, Drew. And it's very true. Let's say you like the Steelers tonight. You think the Steelers are going to kill the Giants. Well, if you bet Pittsburgh here, you may as well bet them next week as well, -6.5, because if they kill the Giants, it'll likely be 7 or higher. You can take one opinion and turn it into 2 bets when you have a situation where one of the teams playing on Monday Night Football and there's already a lineup for the next week. If you think the Broncos are going to look great tonight, you think the Steelers are going to look terrible, you take Denver plus the points right now. If Denver wins going away and then Pittsburgh loses straight up, how low does this line go? If Big Ben doesn't look right or whatever, if it could come 4, I wouldn't be shocked. Again, that was my powering number for the game. But it's based on what you think is going to happen tonight that you can make a positive expectation bet on what's going to happen next week as these 2 teams face off. Worth noting, both teams will be on a short week, although it is Denver, the West Coast team, traveling east for the early start game.
He's Teddy Covers on Twitter at Teddy_Covers. This is the NFL opening line report each and every Monday, 10 a.m. Pacific time. Come and join us right here on the Wager Talk YouTube channel. He's Teddy Covers, and he's hot right now, 67% NFL and college football starts. So right out the gate, week 1, he has been good for multiple years right now. Also 18-6, 75% all sports since August 25th, and 38-18, 69% all sports since August 6th. So check them out, sportsmemo.com, also wagertalk.com right now. We got Atlanta at Dallas up next, Teddy. Looks like the Cowboys -6 and Jerry's World 52 being the total.
Look ahead line was Dallas -7, total of 50. My powering number was 5.5 on the Cowboys, and there were 6.5 sevens last night. The markets have already made a move towards Atlanta. I'm not surprised that that's the case. Look, the Falcons were -2 in turnovers. They were 0-4 on fourth down. It's not like they didn't move the football. It's not like they didn't have chances. They didn't execute the most important plays of the game. And they got caught in Pete Carroll got caught in a try to be more aggressive contest with Dan Quinn. And Pete Carroll won that contest against his former assistant, which doesn't mean the Falcons stink. but they were -2 in turnovers in that game. A big concern for Atlanta. They only had 4 incomplete passes forced on defense. That may be a problem against the Cowboys. But, as we saw last night, the hype machine on Dallas tends to be a little bit greater than the production. And all this criticism of McCarthy, there's 100 reasons to criticize Mike McCarthy. I spent a decade doing it when he was in Green Bay. But his decision to go for it on 4th down from inside the 5-yard line in the 4th quarter instead of kicking the game-tying field goal was the correct decision. We want coaches to be aggressive. We want them to be aggressive from inside the 5-yard line. When you don't make the first down there, you have the opposing team pinned deep. There's a ton of advantages to it. It was absolutely, unequivocally the right call. So everyone is criticizing that. Oh, it didn't work. Go screw yourself, dude. It didn't work. I understand. Sometimes it doesn't. You pay attention to the process as much as the result, and the process for McCarthy was right. That said, Dallas has issues in the secondary. Dallas has issues. Everyone's talking about this receiving core. It can't be stopped. Well, the Rams stopped them. So the money's already come for Atlanta. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a little bit more.
All right, Teddy. Process over outcome. It's just like sports betting. We got 269, 270, the rotation number. Next game up here, San Francisco at the New York Jets. We got 43.5 being the total, and it looks like the 49ers laying 7 or 6.5. Kind of some opinion maybe in the marketplace here, Teddy?
Yeah, the look headline was 6, total 43.5. My powering number is only 4 on San Fran. I talk about downgrading Philly. I downgraded San Fran. You have to downgrade San Fran off what you saw yesterday. Starting center out, backup center out, receiving core non-existent. Everybody's hurt. They only had 3 healthy receivers by the end of that ball game. Everyone's talking about Garoppolo. He looked terrible. Garoppolo couldn't make a throw with the game on the line. I understand that. His starting center was out, his backup center was out, and he had no receivers to throw to. And where receivers were supposed to be, they weren't. It's a complicated offense in San Fran. Now it's a West Coast team traveling east for an early start game. I understand that they fall in that angle of the team that was a big favorite in week 1 that lost. They're real good week 2. But the interesting thing is the market crash on the Jets. All right, make no mistake about it. 27-17 was the final yesterday, Jets-Bills. That game was like 54-0. Okay, it was right. It was not as close as the final score would indicate. The box score lies from that game. Lies a lot from that game because the Jets got all their yardage in garbage time. They both were up 21-0 and fell asleep, which is what teams do. All that said, whatever. I mean, the Jets, there was no pass rush. They had a delay of game the first play after a kickoff. They had 4 new offensive linemen. And the thing that concerned me the most was Sam Darnold making, I'll call it frustration because nothing is working throws. They weren't ready in the first half. They played a better second half, but the Jets did look pretty awful. But San Fran has some major issues. Obviously, I don't think the market's going to be like Jets anytime soon. I think the Jets have a better game in than the one we just saw. San Fran has issues. I'll leave it at that. Again, my powering number for the game is 4. The market's 6.5, 7 as we speak.
Teddy, do you think there's anything real quick here with the matchup handicapping with the San Francisco 49ers against mobile quarterbacks, them kind of struggling in the past where their defense really excels against more of the pocket passers and, Sam Darnold being, I guess you could make the argument he's a little bit of a mobile quarterback here, but not nearly like, some of the elite mobile quarterbacks in the NFL.
Sure. He's not Kyler Murray,
No.
He's not Patrick Mahomes.
No.
I don't think it's unique to San Francisco. There's a lot of teams that have, the mobile quarterbacks are the future of the NFL. The teams with the mobile QBs are the teams with the best offenses right now. So I'm not convinced that it's just San Fran, that it's San Fran specific. They're bad against mobile quarterbacks. Mobile quarterbacks are more dangerous than drop back passers.
Good point. We got AFC East up next. Buffalo versus Miami, rotation number 271, 272. Also a 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific kick here. -5 in the hook. That's the Bills in South Florida. 41 being the total in Hard Rock.
Look at number was 3.5, in total of 43. My powering number is 8.5 on the Bills, which tells you where I am on this game. And the markets were 4.5/5.5 last night. And the total's been bet down. Miami is 4 new starting offensive linemen, and a defense that got absolutely gashed by the run last week. The Dolphins, again, it's a rebuilding process in Miami. There was a lot of thought, and I tweeted this out. It's like the overreactions after week 1 are insane, And I saw 14 different headlines. 2 a time? 2 already? And not just from I'm not talking about like fans. I'm talking about like in the Miami Herald. It's like, but the headline is 2 a time, and the article says no. The offensive line stinks. The receiving core isn't that great. The defense just has a whole bunch of new faces. The Dolphins should be power rated at the very bottom of the NFL. And again, Buffalo completely dominated that game against the Jets. We saw Josh Allen miss a couple of receivers in the end zone, and people were screaming about that. That's Josh Allen. Josh Allen's not the most accurate quarterback. He's going to miss throws. He's also going to make some plays. And it's worth noting they scored it. But they had some turnovers. They had some missed field goals. They had a bunch of drives that moved the ball and didn't get in the end zone. And they were able to take advantage of a bunch of Jets' mistake. That's a lying box score. I'm paying a lot of attention to box scores that lie early on in the season because the statistical handicappers are going to be basing bets based on those lying box scores. And the Bills' box score is nothing but lies. Obviously, we've seen Buffalo money already. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a little bit more.
How high do you think it gets? You think it gets to 7?
No. But again, I don't. Once the money starts flowing, one thing we saw yesterday, really, the markets didn't dawdle when it came to big moves. Like the money came in on the Rams or it came in earlier in the day on the Rams, where it basically went from 2.5 to pick. And it went like that. It was one of these moves that were fast. So what I'm saying is that the odds makers are adjusting fairly quickly, which means that maybe we could get, but I don't think we see 7 based on the Bills' box score. I don't think we see 7, and based on the post-game commentary about, Josh Allen's missing these throws, the Bills aren't that good. Buffalo's good. All right. Mm-hmm. I got Buffalo, I think, ranked. I got the Chiefs and the Ravens and the Saints as top 3. I might have the Bills would be 4 or 5 in my power ratings. I'm very high on the Buffalo Bills right now. 8 receivers caught 2+ passes yesterday. That's a quarterback who's doing his job.
So you got, a top 5-ish power rated team.
Yes,
and you did
absolutely.
And just a quick follow-up question here, Teddy, because you quickly mentioned, Dolphins possibly being power rated as the lowest team in the NFL. Are they your lowest power rated team in the NFL?
I got a bunch of teams booked together. Hang on, I got to.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That's how I have it as well.
But yeah, I moved up Jacksonville. I moved up Cincinnati. Mm-hmm. I didn't adjust the Jets, even off that bad performance yesterday. It wasn't a power rating adjustment performance. It was a bad first half. But I've got Miami, Jacksonville, Carolina, Cincy, Washington, and the Jets all within, in that same category. And we'll see how the Giants look tonight. They're also in that same basic category of, these are the bottom feeders. But of all those bottom feeders, look, the Jags showed some bet on signs yesterday. The Bengals showed some bet on signs yesterday. The Carolina showed some bet on, all better than I thought they were going to be, which leaves maybe a team like Miami is a little bit lower. Because New England wasn't that good yesterday. All they did was hand the ball off. The Dolphins couldn't stop.
Mm-hmm. Guys, remember, it is $9 Monday at WagerTalk and SportsMemo.com. All plays discounted to just $9 on Mondays. And if you're watching this on replay, $2 Tuesday. It's the top handicapper at WagerTalk and SportsMemo.com. Their top play will be discounted to just $2 on Tuesdays. So $9 Mondays, $2 Tuesdays. Want to remember that for SportsMemo.com and WagerTalk.com. Speaking of Jacksonville, next game up here, Teddy, still a 1 o'clock Eastern slate kick here. We got a full 1 o'clock Eastern slate. Minnesota at Indianapolis. We got the Colts -348 the total. The Colts making some headlines yesterday, Teddy.
Yeah, although the Vikings did too, kind of.
Yeah, true.
So look, headline here was Indy 2.5, 46.5. My powering number is Indy 3. The markets are at 3 and 47.5. This morning. The Vikings have some issues on the defensive side of the football because Green Bay's not that good. And the last 6 drives of that game were all touchdowns. It was 22-10 and ends up 43-34. Worth noting, Mike Zimmer 3 of 3 on 2-point conversion tries. That's what we expect from well-coached teams. and they erased 3 points off the deficit that way. But when you're talking about a Vikings defense that lost Xavier Rhodes and Trey Raines and Mackenzie Alexander from the secondary, they had 3 guys in the secondary. They were all 23 and younger yesterday, and it showed. The secondary got burnt, and the pass rush wasn't there. Remember, Danielle Hunter's hurt. Everson Griffin's in Dallas. There was no pass rush, and the guy they got from the Jaguars, I botch his name, Nagakui. I still botch his name. A non-factor yesterday, and again, you get someone who a talent, but you get him at the end of training camp. It's going to take a couple weeks to pick up, and of course now we have Kirk Cousins, and again the numbers vary, but my numbers show now 7-28 for his career against teams with a winning record. So there is certainly, I've got a lot of concerns about Minnesota. The Vikings under the win total was my last cut, under 9, and I didn't release it. And after watching them yesterday, I was kicking myself a little bit. I'm like, that should have been on the list, but I didn't want to overdo it this year. But I certainly have concerns. My concerns were greater about Minnesota's loss than Indy's loss yesterday. The Colts, they just got Phillip Rivers a little bit, and Marlon Mack's got a torn ACL. Who cares? They're better with Jonathan Taylor at running back. All right. I like the accountability. They are. They'll be fine with Jonathan Taylor at RB. I'm not saying they're better. They'll be fine.
I was just laughing at how you said it. Who cares?
Yeah, exactly. I like the accountability. T.Y. Hilton after the game, quote, "I lost the game. The drops, they never should have had them." And there were a bunch of things for Indy yesterday. They went for it on 4th down for the 3-yard line early, didn't get there. The rookie kicker, which is a concern, he hit the left upright on a 30-yard attempt. Another missed. But of these two teams off their respective week 1 losses, I think Indy's more likely to bounce back. The markets agree with me. Again, the look ahead was 2.5. The current number sitting at 3. I don't think it's going to get off 3. I'd be really surprised if it gets off 3. There's no urgency to bet this game.
Teddy, we got 275, 276 up next. Detroit at Green Bay. We got Green Bay Packers laying 5.5 or 6, mostly 6s out there in the marketplace. 47.5 the total in Lambeau.
Yeah, look ahead lines were 6 and 46. My powering number is 5, and the markets, as you mentioned, 5.5, 6. A little bit of upwards motion on the total. You want the irony for for Drew Swift dropping that? DeAndre Swift dropping the. You're Drew Martin. He's DeAndre Swift.
Okay.
For DeAndre Swift dropping the game-winning touchdown for the Lions yesterday.
Let's hear it,
dude. When you read the draft reports on him, everything is the Lions are going to have to find ways to get him the ball in the passing game. He's the best pass catcher out there. He's an unbelievable talent catching the football. This guy got to get him the ball in space. And they throw him the game-winning touchdown pass, and it's in his hands. And Lions fans will tell you what happened next. Of course, everyone's going to talk about the Bears rallying back against that Lions defense. Oh, yeah, the Bears. Well, again, number 1 draft choice, the rookie quarterback, Jeff Okudah, he was out, inactive with a hamstring injury. And then during the game, both starting cornerbacks got hurt. Desmond Trufant sat, Justin Coleman sat. So, yeah, you're missing your top 3 cornerbacks. All of a sudden, Mitch Trubisky can look okay. And he did. Mm-hmm. But also Kenny Golladay didn't play for Detroit, who's their best receiver. So, when you have your top 3 cornerbacks and your best receiver not playing and the guy drops the pass to that would have you win the game, it's pretty frustrating for Detroit. It certainly doesn't get any easier here against Green Bay. But let's note on the Packers. We talked about Minnesota's injuries in the secondary. The Packers, cluster injuries on the offensive line. That's a concern. Also, cluster injuries on the defensive line. That's a concern for Green Bay. That said, one team found a way to win. The other team found a way to lose. But all that said, the early money's showing for the Packers. The markets like this in Detroit. I don't know which way this line. This isn't one of these games where I can clearly see a line move. I'm not sure where this line is moving.
Okay.
We will, however, likely see a little bit of over money we already have. If you like the over, bet it sooner rather than later.
And that over's sitting at about 47.5 right now. It's already taken a little bit of money towards the over. We got the New York Giants at the Chicago Bears up next. Talking about the Bears, we got the Bears minus 5.5 in Soldier Field, 43 the total in this one, Teddy.
Yeah, the look-ahead line is 5.5 and 43. My powering number is 3 on the Bears. Don't be fooled by what the Chicago winning that game is all I'm going to say. Do not be fooled. And we'll see if I adjust the Giants, but the Bears aren't any good. All right. And that win yesterday was an absolute mirage. And again, they lost it. The guy just dropped the pass. So I downgraded Chicago off that performance, not upgraded. But again, we'll see. This line will come based on how the Giants look. 5.5, still a look ahead right now before the G-men play.
All right, Teddy, we got Jacksonville versus Tennessee up next. 43 being the total with the Titans. And again, we got the Monday night issue happening again in this one. -10, -10.5 at home against the 1-0 Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, look ahead line here was 11 and 43. My powering number going into the Monday night game is only 9.5. Again, like I said, I did raise Jacksonville, and I probably shouldn't have had them that low to begin with. I let myself get talked into some of that tanking stuff, and that kept me off the Jags yesterday instead of knowing, when Drew and I, you and I have been talking about Gardner Minshew since he was at Washington State.
Oh, yeah. Even before that.
It's not like we don't know this kid, and it's not like we don't know the character that he has, and it's not like we're shocked. Accuracy has always been his strength. 19 of 20 yesterday throwing the football, and the only incomplete was a catchable ball early in the game. It is worth noting, in a year with no home fields, the Jags had fans, and there was a legit home field edge for them yesterday. I put the Jags. I'm giving, I think, 1/1.5 point for home fields in my numbers, but I'm trying to be team specific. Minnesota talked a lot about there being no crowd and it hurting them. I gave them a 0. The Jags, I gave it 2 for their home field, although they're not at home this week.
Yeah, no, good stuff with the home field advantage stuff there, Teddy. I even think it matters more this year just in the travel. Like we're seeing it cross-country trips. I would focus more on that than the actual fans in the stadium. Do you agree with that?
Both. The answer is both. And
okay.
I'm literally adjusting my home field based on the team, based on the week, based on the situation. It's not one of these blanket, all right, let's add 2.5 or 3 points to every team at home. We'll give the Vikings and the Saints and the Seahawks an extra hook. I'm paying a lot of attention to home fields, and we're going to base it on results. And we're going to base it on what the quotes are after the game from the opposing team and from the home team. Minnesota, all the quotes yesterday were like, man, we had no energy. The fact there was no crowd. I'm so used to this crowd helping us. It was really weird. That's a negative for a team. And I'm certainly not going to give any home field advantage for a team that I'm getting quotes like that from.
Yeah, always good to see the mustache grab a victory here. It's going to be fun to watch the Jags going forward if they can continue it. We got 281, 282 up next. On to the 4 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Pacific kicks here. Washington football team at the Arizona Cardinals. We got the Arizona Cardinals -6 in the hook. There is a -7 out there. 46.5 being the total in this one, Teddy.
Yeah, and for again, for both of these teams, take a breath.
Okay.
They both won yesterday. But take a breath with, let's start with the look ahead with 6.5, 46.5. My powering number is Arizona 6.5. The markets, as you mentioned, 6.5, 7, down to 45.5. There's certainly something to like about what the Washington football team did yesterday on defense. When you're blowing up the line of scrimmage literally on every play, it's impressive. And of course, and it happened play after play after play throughout the second half of that game. The only thing you noticed was the Skins. Every the defensive line was in the backfield on every play. They were playing a team that had no offensive line. They had cluster injury on the offensive line, and that won't be the case this week. And Kyler Murray's tricky. He's real tricky. Give Riverboat Ron credit. He was the only first-year head coach to get a spread cover yesterday. And worth noting what he did. Tie game, fourth quarter. They're at the Philly 5-yard line. What did the Skins do? They went for it and scored a touchdown. So we don't we can't yell at Mike McCarthy if we're going to praise Ron Rivera for a comparable situation. That's what you do. That's the positive expectation situation. And he did it. That said, the quotes out of Arizona after the game. How about DeAndre Hopkins? Quote, I knew we had something special the day I walked into this building. This team works. How Kyler and this team work. I've been around a lot of great people, and Kyler works like it's his last day on earth. Nothing is a surprise about what happened today. Arizona's bet on, and the market may well get us there.
That's a great quote there, Teddy. And just to follow up to a stat, you just said only first-year head coach to get an ATS cover. Is that the stat?
Correct. There's 4 first-year head coaches. And again, McCarthy's a previous coach, but 4 head coaches with new teams.
Right.
They went 1-3 ATS in the first half. The only cover was McCarthy in Dallas when they got that touchdown right before halftime to cover against the Rams by, there was a pick 'em for the first half, and they won by a point. And the only one to cover for the full game was Riverboat Ron and the Washington football team of the 4 new head coaches. So 1-3 ATS first half, 1-3 ATS full game for the coaches. We have Joe Judge going tonight for the Giants.
Okay. Interesting there with Joe Judge. But just another thing here with going into week 2, would you look for that to be a kind of stat that you look to back going into week 2, or is that kind of just a 1-week thing in the new system?
It's a good question. Case by case basis, but in general, I want to see a new head coach win a game. I know cover a spread before I'm going to get to the window with him. And so with week 1, there's a ton of questions, and this is worth talking about for a minute because there are 2 concepts that are in play, and you have to balance them off one another. The first concept is you don't overreact to any one given game. All right, you can't. You don't make huge power rating adjustments and, this team stinks or this team's great. Or you make power rating adjustments based on if a team is injured and they're not going to be what you thought they were going to be, but just based on the performance itself, you don't want to make these huge adjustments. That said, we always talk about you don't want to try to catch the falling knife. The team that isn't going to be any good this year, you have to be really aware. I don't want to try to find and grab. It's certainly not the first month of the season where these bad teams have to get graded properly. And similarly, you don't want to try to bet against a team that's skyrocketing. So you don't want to overreact. And week 1's all about overreaction, but you don't want to underreact either and say, all right, well, they look bad, but they're actually okay. So each game has this balance of, what'd you see? How real is it? What'd you see? How real is it? And that's what week 2 is all about. I love week 2. In the NFL. I think I loved week 2. I know I got that great track record of week 1. I love week 2 just as much, if not more, because you get some of these overreactions. And also you get some of the underreactions on teams that might be really good, like Arizona.
Yeah. And guys, talking about guys that have been doing it very well for an extended period of time, a track record here. Teddy covers 57% in the NFL every single play for the last 5 years. Check him out, sportsmemo.com. Track record speaks for itself. He's also hot right now, 18-6. That's a 75% run since August 25th. Check him out, Sports Memo or wagertalk.com. And remember, it's $9 Monday. So his top plays, all of his plays, discounted to just $9 just today for $9 Monday. We got Baltimore at Houston up next. 283-284, the rotation numbers, 425 Eastern, 125 Pacific kick here, Teddy. Baltimore at Houston, and talking about teams, power rating, one going up, one going down here, we might get it. However, Houston, extended rest and the home team catching points. Not sure if that's a profile you would look to bet in this situation. 52.5 being the total. Baltimore -6.5 on the road.
Look ahead line was Ravens -5, 5.5, total of 53. My powering number, Baltimore -7. And the current market in that 6.5 range, as you mentioned, 52.5. I'm just going to leave it at this. All right. Why? The Chiefs and the Ravens are the 2 best teams in the NFL, and it's not close. All right. It's not close. You're not going to find me again early in the season. NFL is as simple as it gets. You bet on good teams, you bet against bad teams. Mm-hmm. I'm not betting against Baltimore right now. They are a very good football team. They are loaded in every possible way, including the coaching staff. Houston, not so much. I can't anticipate. Well, the wise guys might like the Texans. You talked about that overreaction versus underreaction. Sure. We could easily see a wise guy move on the Texans this week. Wouldn't shock me at all. They were betting them last week. Mm-hmm. Not my money.
Yeah.
And again, so I gave the power number. Yeah, my number's 7 on the game. It'd be Baltimore pass.
Baltimore pass. Okay, we got 2 games left on the Sunday slate here, guys. 285, 286. We will take a quick look at next week's Monday nighter. Kansas City at the LA Chargers. We got the Chiefs -8 in the hook on the road, 48.5 the total.
Yeah, the KC look-ahead line was 6.5, 50.5. My powering number is 8, and the markets are right there, 7.5, 8.5 last night. Now there's pretty much 8s across the board total, right in that 50 range, although we are seeing some under money for that game. And the Chargers sure look like an under team. Tyrod Taylor, and he was getting criticized yesterday. Tyrod Taylor's going to do what he does. He does not make high-risk throws. He is a dink and dunker. He is effective in that role and has been effective in that role. He avoids mistakes. And for a team like the Chargers that has been dealing with Phillip Rivers turnovers for the last 15 years, they could use some of that. That said, they got injuries on the offensive line. Mike Pouncey has a hip injury. Trey Turner's got a knee injury. And those are two key guys for it's a dicey offense for the Chargers right now. Defensively, they were strongest. But again, they went with the game on the line in the fourth quarter. The Bengals went down the field with a rookie quarterback and put the ball in the end zone against LA. And I know I got called back on a penalty, but that's not what I want out of my defense. I've got my issues with the Chargers and the Chiefs, as I just talked about. I've got no interest in betting against the Chiefs or the Ravens. That said, it's a divisional game. LA couldn't be more hungry for this, and you're not getting any bargains with Kansas City. This is going to be a game I am unlikely to be involved in.
Teddy, we got the Sunday Nighter up next, 287-288 rotation numbers. New England Patriots at the Seattle Seahawks, -3. Seeing -3 in the hook out there with the Seattle Seahawks laying that at home. 44 being the total. Talk about fascinating handicaps. We got one here, Teddy.
Oh, no, the money's all coming on Seattle. I'm seeing 4s, and the 4.5s are popping up, total of 45 right now. Look-ahead line was 3.5 and 44. My powering number is 3.5. But it's been nothing but Seattle money. Really good quotes from the Seahawks after that game. They talked about being aggressive right out of the gate, and they were aggressive right out of the gate. Pete Carroll, Russell was in total command of the game, and Russell Wilson was incredible in that contest. What did he throw? 4 incompletes. And Carroll being aggressive on fourth down. The game turned on Seattle going for it on fourth down, a touchdown, and then because of that, Atlanta had to go for it on fourth down, and they didn't make it. And then, boom, it's Seattle running away with the ball game. There was a lot to like about New England yesterday. Again, the offensive line played well. That was a big concern for me with the retirement of their longtime OL coach. Cam Newton played well. The defense played well. It was stodgy, workmanlike effort. And it's definitely worth noting. It was a very sluggish first half for the Patriots, which you would expect with a new QB learning a new system in his first half. They were up 7-3 at the break. The second half went touchdown. Would have been a touchdown, but he fumbled through the end zone. It was a touchback, and that led to the only Dolphins touchdown of the game, and then touchdown. So the second half was touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. 18 rushing first downs against Miami. That's really nobody else in the NFL was close yesterday. But we've seen so many Belichick teams get blown out in spots like these, have rough times in spots like these. I would not be, my first lean is that there's value on the Patriots, and the more I thought about the matchup this week against this team, I'm like, you better tap the brakes on New England. We'll find spots to get on the Patriots. I'm just not convinced this is going to be one of them. The markets are clearly moving towards Seattle early. If you like the Seahawks, find a 4 right now, because I think this line is moving up.
And Teddy, about the Patriots handicap going forward, do you see them running Cam Newton that much each and every week, or was that just kind of out the gate thing, getting the opposing defensive coordinators to remember that they have that in their arsenal to do it, and they're going to kind of pump the brakes on that going forward?
I would anticipate that Cam Newton running will be a regular part of their offense.
Okay. You think he makes it through the season?
I don't know if he's going to run as much as he did yesterday, but there are going to be designed quarterback draws. I'm confident of that. And Cam Newton's going to scramble out of the pocket. It's what he does. It's one of the things that he does. So they have a pretty good offensive line. And Newton's, been taking hits like that his whole career. Yes, I think they will. I don't know if there's going to be as many rushing. Yesterday he was their leading rusher. They don't want that.
Right.
This isn't a college offense where you have the QB, your leading passer, and your leading rusher. No, I wouldn't anticipate that. But I do think that Cam Newton running the football will be a regular part of the Patriots running game.
And how'd you grade him out? Because heck, he's kind of an interesting handicap when you're handicapping the Patriots going forward. How good and how talented, how healthy is he going to be throwing the football? How would you grade him out?
I thought it was a solid first performance. I graded him. I graded Cam Newton as a positive. Okay. And again, a lot of the first half stuff I'm throwing out. Okay. First half with no preseason, you have to take it with a grain of salt. Second half, as I said, Patriots 3 drives, touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. I know they had fumbled the one, but the offense did everything they wanted it to do. And it's not about sexy. It's about scoring touchdowns, and then they did that.
Good stuff, Teddy. We got the Monday Nighter here, guys. And remember, it's $2 Tuesday tomorrow. If you're watching this on replay, might be Tuesday. It is $2 Tuesday. Top play at Wager Talk and SportsMemo.com. Discounted to just $2. And remember, guys, each and every Monday, not only the NFL opening line report, 10 a.m. Pacific time, but it is $9 Monday at both SportsMemo and WagerTalk.com. We got the Monday Nighter here. Teddy, hit it real quick. 289-290. New Orleans at the Las Vegas Raiders, 51.5. We're seeing the Saints -5 in the hook favorites on the road, opening up Allegiant Stadium.
Yeah, and obviously we'll talk about this game again next Monday night, but just from a line mover standpoint, look ahead number was New Orleans -4.5, total 50.5. My powering number is 5.5. The markets are at 5.5 and 51.5. The Raiders' defensive performance yesterday tells me that the only way we're going to see money here is Saints. And again, I was really looking forward to going to this game, Drew. We talked about going to this game.
Me too, yeah.
We're not going to go to the game, obviously. It'd be a heck of a lot of fun to be at Allegiant Stadium, but no one's going to be at Allegiant Stadium. It's there for the players, which negates something of the home field advantage. And Drew Brees was terrible yesterday. Terrible. But that Saints defense is real. And the Raiders defense is not real. And that was really clear. The Raiders secondary is injury problems already. There's a defensive disparity between these two teams that may not be fully reflected in this number. I would anticipate some Saints money. I don't know if we're going to see a deluge of Saints money, but we'll see some.
Okay. And Teddy, man, it was fun breaking down the slate again. It feels like we're getting back into normal. We got a bunch of guys in the chat box. Appreciate everybody coming out. Mike Campbell, Kellogg, Run the Point, Scott Brown, Birdie, all you guys. I mean, more than I could even name here, guys. I really appreciate you chiming in the chat box. Also reaching out on Twitter at Drew Martin Bets, at Teddy_covers. And remember, each and every Monday, guys, 10 a.m. Pacific time. Put it down on your calendars. This is the NFL opening line report each and every Monday going forward throughout the NFL season. Teddy covers. Check them out, sportsmemo.com, wagertalk.com. 57% in the NFL. Every single play released the last 5 years, and he's hot right now, guys. 18-6 all sports since August 25th, and of course 67% in both the NFL and college football out the gate. Teddy, anything else you want to throw out before we shut this down?
So I do a lot of podcasts, a lot of video casts. I do a couple every day. There are many days I do more. It's part of me branding, and it's something I enjoy doing. This is the best show that we do. Okay, this is the best show that I do, and I encourage you to watch it every week. You'll get this info every week, all season long. Please tell your friends, spread the word out. If you like what we did today, join us again next Monday, right here on the Wager Talk YouTube channel, 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 o'clock on the East Coast. That's what I have to say, Drew. Thank you.
Teddy, always fun on Monday mornings with you guys. This is the NFL opening line report. We will be back next Monday, 10 a.m. Pacific time. Best of luck with your bets until then, guys. Stay safe out there.